Just let you know. Okay. Um, well, I'll toss the topic out there, and I actually started writing down some of the things I'm trying to do, but so, I'll bet many of you, at least for me, I interview a lot of entrepreneurs, and that tends to be a theme of, okay, well, you got a business idea, but you're not the only person with that idea. What are you doing to make that idea different than the competitions, or at least shine? And I thought that would be kind of a good one to go through today. So how about we just swap some ideas? I'll be happy to go first. I don't even know if this is unique, or a mistake, but one of the things that I try and do is I try and come out with a longer interview on Mondays and a shorter pocket-sized pep talk kind of thing. That's the name of the show, but my interviews aren't exactly pocket-sized. But I come long and short, solo and guest, and sort of try and maintain that rhythm. I'm just tossing it out there as that's one version of me trying to be unique. What about some of the rest of you?
Well, we certainly, we can't achieve it every time, but I'll say that we, keeping it topical, like if there's something in the news, anything in the headlines that we can borrow from to spin that theme. Today, we've got somebody who's flying over to Poland on Friday to help in some to help the Ukrainian refugees with their animal relief efforts. So we're an animal protection podcast. So obviously that's in the headline, it's in the news, it's top of mind for everybody. We can't do it every time, but this one's obviously in the headlines. So I think tries to give you a little boost there when it's in the headlines. Excellent. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I personally, I don't really work with those. I got to check on Bella here just to make sure we actually have somebody there. It's quite a unique picture there. You say hi to us. I got my finger on the remove button right now. So give me a hello real fast.
Hey, what's up?
Can you tell me a little about yourself?
I don't have a podcast, but I'm interested in probably starting one. Good. My background's in healthcare. I'm a registered nurse. So, just looking for something different. So I'm just trying to get ideas and, bounce back ideas.
Perfect. Came to the right place. Just seeing the monkey picture, and we get bombed occasionally. So I just needed a little bit, just coming for some ideas kind of thing. Normally the bomb starts pretty fast once I ask, how you doing? So good. We'll settle in, and nice to have you here. I now have removed my finger off the trigger there. So good. Yeah, I think, format is one, topic is another. That makes you unique. Keep going. I mean, those are the easy ones. Let's get at some harder ones. Yeah. Alex.
Yeah, my first thought when I saw this topic was I agree with everything you said, Rob. It's funny. My initial thought was different than that, and that is one, I think being unique is partially driven by the guests that you bring on, right? Mm-hmm. I haven't been doing this long, but it's amazing how, I get solicitations from people wanting to be on all the time, and they're promoting their book or whatever, and they're out doing it. And sometimes I think if it's a fit for the podcast, that's great. If it's not, don't do it just because they want the promotion. So I think the guest is paramount for me. But then yeah, I think the uniqueness part is one of the things I do is I go on YouTube and I try to find what they've done or said before, and I try to take a different slant that people haven't heard from them before. And I'll share with you guys. Monday I got word that I just booked a guest, and chances are, well, right now we're in the negotiation part of it. I want the guest to be on for 30 minutes. They've agreed to at least 10. So we're working from there. But the guest is Dr. Oz. And one of the things I think is so neat about Dr. Oz is how many times he's reinvented himself as a person along the way. And I think people who view the show, they know a certain amount about him. What about him as a husband and father? What about what does it take to reinvent yourself? So that's the unique side that I want to kind of draw out of him.
Well, first of all, congratulations on that booking. Because I was going to throw a question out, and I want this. I want you to handle it, Alex, because it relates to what you're saying. When you said, I want to make sure the guest fits. What if I told you I had a guest with 250,000 Twitter followers? Does he fit or she fit now?
Yes.
Well, that's my. I'm with you, Alex, and you know what? Both of us are getting our hands slapped under the ruler, but I think here, let me answer it. Let me say yes, and I'm hoping I can find an angle. I really won't take somebody that has nothing to do with our topic, but I'm looking at each one of you and saying, how many times have you said, we'll find an angle to tie that into our branding? But boy, those 250,000 Twitter followers, or just pick your social media angle, certainly interests me. So when you say Dr. Oz and you say, you want 30, he wants 10, I don't think that should be a long negotiation.
Oh no! Hey, if I get, I'm doing 10. I'm working with his director of communications to make sure that all the topics are in line and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah,
good. Congratulations.
He won't have any surprise questions thrown at him. He won't have the questions in advance, but he won't have any surprises thrown at him.
Good. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Hey, I think there's unique and there's better. I think I've done a lot of unique and gone down the wrong road. And so I think you have to, maybe if I'm going to interview Alex, I'm going to take a different road that other people have, or come up with a new application of a topic, or something different. I mean, I think it is much harder than picking out a microphone or doing a tweet for the podcast or doing a video. I think it's really, you got to get all your brains in order and have to have a feel for what's going on. Now, I do a podcast for the federal technology, and there's a lot of things going on the last 2 weeks that didn't go on a month ago. And so I can't plan. I have to almost plan, okay, I'm doing an interview tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And so what's happened in the last 2 weeks can impact this particular person I'm going to interview. And so I think this, in my world, there's a lot of stuff going on. So I just think it's unique, may not be better, but I think maybe, is it word contemporary or maybe current, something like that. And that may bring out the uniqueness.
Excellent. Somebody else jump in, and maybe with a unique idea that you have, or that you, and I like what you said. It didn't necessarily, maybe it didn't work. Okay. But I like to hear unique because, in the spirit of brainstorming, you want to pay the guy, the person extra who's coming in with ideas that, who cares if they work? It brings us to an idea off that idea. So I'm just curious about some of the ideas, and have no issue with whether they worked or not. Just want to hear you getting out of the box. What are you doing differently? Yeah, Marilyn.
Okay, well, as some of you know, I don't have a podcast, but I'm looking to be a guest on podcasts. And to me, the uniqueness really comes down to what I call the natural expression of the person that you're interviewing. I have a program called Natural Expression Marketing, and it really taps into the uniqueness of the individual and how they express that naturally, instead of trying to fit a mold or follow some kind of formula. So that personal brand is really everyone is unique just in and of themselves. And if they express that naturally, then they do have a unique message. And so I would see the the guest's responsibility is to communicate to the host in advance, here is what my unique value is, so that the podcast host knows how to ask questions that will bring that out.
Have any of you ever heard of the, well said, and I want to build on that. Any of you ever heard of a publicist named Debbie Lewis?
Yes.
Okay. She's a really good publicist. And one of the things that she does when she pitches a guest, and I have a relationship with her professionally, but one of the things that she does is she writes right on there, the so what. And I really like that, because a lot of times I'm tunneling through and trying to, and most people don't write that way. But I think as podcast hosts, we need to interview that way. I'm just telling you, I love that as a format. So while you were talking, Marilyn, an idea that sprung out to me was maybe a segment early, that actually is repeated, and maybe we train the audience to hear the so what. So it's not buried. I know what it is. I got it on my piece of paper here. I sort of wrap it into my little teaser in the beginning, but I'm sitting here thinking, why don't I have a part we go, and now it's time for the so what, or something like that. But I'm just looking for something unique. And the good publicists clearly help us out, but most guests are not going to write that way. They got a book, they want dental practice, whatever it is. A lot of dentists out there looking to get on podcasts. Anybody noticing that? At least in my world. But okay, keep going. Other ideas.
Well, just a comment, Rob, I really like that idea of taking that so what and using that in the beginning as your like lead in, because that's immediately going to get people to engage in the big point.
Yeah. And David, you work on websites, and what's a website homepage trying to do real fast?
Oh yeah. So what's in it for me? Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So what's in it for me? Okay. Other ideas. And by the way, Charlie, good to see you, my friend. Look at you.
Good to be seen.
Yeah. You all right?
Doing okay. Thanks.
Good.
Doing okay.
Good. All right.
I
keep
can
going.
add one minor thing. Sorry, I was a little late. Dan Cole and I are going to be on one of Fred Diamond's Sales Game Changers episodes in a couple of weeks. And we did the pre-interview with him yesterday to check out the gear, make sure everything was good, and then go over a few things about what we might talk about. And one of the things Fred said was, okay, at the end, I'm going to say, what's the one thing you want to leave the audience with? And it was nice to have that conversation 2 days before we do our taping, because I hadn't thought about that, and Rob knows I'm, never at a loss for words, but it's nice to think about it formally and sort of have it sussed out. So just thought I'd add that. That's all I got.
You're muted, Rob.
I wanted to be muted. I just wanted to see if you could read my lips. I know Fred Diamond myself, and he's a very interesting guy, and a guy with some social media. He's built his social media clout. He wasn't that way some years ago. He's hung in there. Kyle.
Fred's one of my stories that I love to talk about. I love, if you look
Kyle,
at Fred,
welcome aboard.
Every single picture, he has the same necktie on. It's great. He's just a really cool guy. And he'll show you. He says, I got two. The other one's here in my briefcase. And he'll show you the other necktie. It's great. I love Fred. Yeah. You should check it out.
Yeah. And they meet live too now also. I've been a speaker there for many different times. Hey, Kyle, you going to say hi to us? Because I'm going to have to remove you if you don't. What do you think? Hello?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, sir. I'm talking to you. How you doing? Can you tell us about yourself? Well, now you're frozen. And I don't know. We'll let him stay frozen for a little bit. If you come on back, yes, please do jump in. Tell us about yourself. My hands. There you go. You a podcaster, sir?
Yes. In fact, I just got the first one done this week, and I'm trying to figure out how to improve it.
Perfect. You came to the right spot. Just needed to hear you tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome aboard, my friend. We're talking about making them unique right now.
That's what appealed to me.
Good. All right. More ideas on the table. Topic can make it unique. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me know if there's any information I can give you all to help you help me. And I'm sure more will come out. But the concept of the podcast generally is interviewing people who are serving life without parole and humanizing them. And the first one was learning experience, but we got some good content. But there's not really there's not an intro really. There's not an outro. There's nothing other than the concept that's unique. That sounds different than every podcast I hear.
Good. I want you to. I'll put my email address. I have a person that I've been working with for some time named Ron James to be a great guest for you. Ron was a 25-year repeat offender, wrote a book in jail called Choices, and he's out now lecturing. But I just think he'd be a real interesting guest for you and a good get. And he's a good friend of mine. I know I can hook you two up. So
I appreciate that.
Good.
Yeah, and Kyle, I would love to talk to you too. I did jail ministry for over 15 years, and some of the guys that I met in that ministry had, lifetime sentences or very long sentences. But yeah, that's a topic of interest.
Cool.
Good.
Thank you. Same here.
Good. All right. So let's get back on topic now. We got Kyle in the fold. Let's keep going. Unique. Topic unique, format unique. We were just talking about maybe a format move of some sort. How about some other format ideas? Anybody, feel like sharing? You got a little secret sauce you might want to share? Go ahead, John, you're up.
This could sound kind of silly, but what brings a lot of life to a podcast is if it's done in an environment where people are walking around. I don't even know why, but whenever I record like a trade show or at an event, and there's this hubbub in the background, and you have an audio engineer control that, for some reason, that brings up the excitement level. And if I look at 50 podcasts and maybe 3 are done on site, there's a bump. I mean, and I don't know what, it's just something about human beings and there's walking around and who's that funny looking guy, Gilroy over there. It's just something, and maybe it's my peculiar personality. Maybe Rob and I, only people who enjoy that, but it kind of brings out more in me, and I can see, oh, there's a guy walking by. He wants to ask you a question. And for some reason, that's I don't know if it's unique, it's different. It just brings up the excitement level. So there's an idea for you. Do it live in front of real human beings walking around.
There's sort of a news journalism type of angle.
Yeah. I can't explain it.
I agree, John. I did a limited series for a friend of mine about 5 years ago called Breakfast from the Tabard Inn. He worked across the street from the Tabard Inn, and we went in and had breakfast and recorded clinking of coffee cups and forks and plates and stuff, and used that as the background for the intro. And we didn't do it live in the coffee shop, but we use that as because it gave you that feel. I always talk about the cocktail for the ear. It gives you that painting that you're trying to, I don't know, fake, I guess. I don't know.
It's funny you brought that up, because John, you must have been psychic, because I was just about to say that. I love those type of podcasts. It's like the man on the street. I used to listen to this guy, and people would complain in the comic section, oh, the traffic sound is too loud. But I loved it because he would curse at, people driving by, or he would comment on people, and I would hear the sounds in the background. I particularly love that. I think my only suggestion would be it not to overwhelm the speaker's voice, but I love the whole sound effects, cups clinking, conversations, low conversation in the background. I don't know. I like that type of stuff. So I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Well, already this has been a good morning for me, because I had never even thought of that remotely, and I'm loving the idea. I think it's a great idea. Go ahead, John. You're hot.
I did this years ago with a guy named Derek McGinty, and it was my idea to go into a bookstore and just go to the bookstore and set it up and build it, and they were okay. And we had 200 people show up, people driving by. It was just and it's just playing off the audience, and a bookstore doesn't have that noise, but it's just
Yeah.
here we are at Borders Bookstore in Falls Church. Come on down and throw a tomato to Derek. And it's just it adds a lot of excitement. So if you can work out something, I mean, there's bookstores all over. I think they're opening back up, and so it's just or come up with some kind of I'm thinking right now of a new one for a month from now. I can't figure it out, but I'll come up with something.
Have you guys heard of Connectpreneur? Local events, networking events about entrepreneurs. I used to go to the coffee part and just interview people in the middle of a din of noise, just 200 people. And I would just go to the corner and do a 4-minute flash interview. But it was kind of fun. I don't really know how many people listen to it, but it was kind of fun. Sorry, David.
Yeah, I was thinking, so if there's authors being interviewed, so I'm combining the idea of, like Alex said, there's all these authors pestering them to interview them. And we were talking about doing a bookstore. So what about an event where it's like an author interview and book signing in a bookstore? It's kind of a combined event.
Politics and Prose does that, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Near you, Rob. Politics and Prose.
Yeah. Sounds like a
Great
good idea. I don't have the equipment for it. I tried. I came out with I had a
You don't have a Zoom R4?
small mixer, and but I did
Zoom
one
H6,
remotely.
whatever it is.
It didn't work real well.
But that's part of the
yeah.
patois. I would disagree with you. I started out doing that to try and see what it sounded like. And I did an interview with a comedian in a Starbucks, and it sounded like it, but that's part of the picture.
Yeah.
I think you take the Zoom was it an H4 or H6? I can't remember anymore. And you plunk it down on the 6, thank you. You plunk it down on the table and you go, and your audience either likes it or they don't like it. I turn the ones off where there's too much echo and too much bathroom bounce or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I agree with what Bella in the Interesting Outfit was saying. I like the noise in the background. I like to have texture, in the layers or whatever the right adjectives are. Sorry.
Yeah, and there's sweetening services that you can sweeten it later. You can, improve the sound quality if it's too much.
I did a speakers tape one time, and I had the audience mic, and they weren't loud enough, so we made them loud enough. End of story. we had an engineer going, these jokes were funny here, here, and here. I want them to be loud. I want those laughs louder. So yes, I was hysterical that day once we got done with it. All right. Great idea. Let's put that one on a shelf. Another one. Let's keep going. What else you got?
Well, we're talking about formatting, and I don't know if this is like unique in any way, but my best friend and I we're a host of a show together. And for us, we used to do scripts, and it was based on our seasonships. It was like relationships. And so we were doing scripts with like having like educational points, and it just was so boring. It just wasn't working for us that we finally just started winging it and got rid of the script and started doing like 20 questions with each other. And that's how we started doing ours. And it became like a really big success for us. So I really like that format of throwing away the script and not sounding so remote and just kind of going with it and being yourself.
Yeah. And I wish guests would get that too, don't you, Chad? Because at least when you have a guest, for me, sometimes I feel like they're on a script of sorts.
Yeah.
And I've now become a little bit more deliberate before I press record to tell them I really want a conversation. I don't need you to, no monologues, and I have to watch it myself because I can go a little bit, but yeah, that's my approach. Go ahead, Charlie.
I think about it a lot of times as a big cocktail party, and one of the conversations that you want to listen into, the ones that are animated, whether people are talking with expression, with emotion, with interest, and with I think about it that way. I know I told Rob this story a long time ago. I had a young lady who was receptionist at the first place where I had a studio, and I had her come in and read the introduction to the podcast about the co-working space because I thought that would make a great connection. And she's a lovely girl, and she's there every day, and this was great. She came in and she read it like this: "Welcome to the Launch Podcast." And I said, "Can't you do this with a little bit of, could you do it like you've had a drink?" And she looked at me. She said, "Can I?" I said, no, you can't have a drink. But I later at studio number 2, we had booze all the time. Studio number 3, no booze. But it is important to have, to make the conversation interesting to listen to, like Chad was saying. An animated conversation. I had a lawyer come in once and read me 2 pages of single space text. And I never even sent him the recording or a bill. I was just like, this is unlistenable. I fell asleep while he was recording it.
Yeah.
It's not interesting,
Yeah. Yeah. You can get a head start. I got you, John. You can get a head start. Sometimes I have a prep sheet and I can start seeing how people prep, whether I'm in trouble or not. Because I would see that, Charlie. I've had them going like, oh, this is going to be rough. I want to go over my 16 pillars of success. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Go ahead, John.
Oh, and Charlie said startup. I had a podcast once called Students versus Startups Showdown in the Potomac. And I'd get a graduate student and put them to talk to a startup. So I found an incubator in Roslyn and it was called Eastern Foundry. And we went to the incubator and we just grabbed, hey, come here. Hey, Rob. And we sit down and we do an interview. And it was great for everyone. Everyone got publicity. My students got experience with articulating questions. And so it can be a trade show. It can be a bookstore. It can be a startup location. I mean, I think Bethesda is all kinds. There's all kinds of startup incubators all through this town. Reston, I know, has got them. Downtown T's got them. There's a place called Decode downtown. So I think just that live from the floor of the Eastern Foundry Startup Center in Roslyn, Virginia, we grabbed the startup. And so that I guess it makes it unique, doesn't it? It makes it different because not everyone's in a radio studio and the radio studios are fine, but you usually have to have an audio engineer with you and some directional microphones to control that, but it all can be done. So that's when Charlie hit startup. I thought about my old Students versus Startups podcast.
Well, it's a great, really, one of the things I'm walking away with personally for me is, and it could be a book signing. And I love that idea, but it could just be an entrepreneur in their environment. And I'm really liking that. And I had not even thought of that. So I like that. And something else you just said, John, that jumped out at me was titling, how we title them.
Oh boy.
I heard this till I say it too much, but I do know how to write blogs. Podcasts, that's coming to me, but 13 years of writing a repeatable blog every other week, 13 years. And one of the things I take very seriously is my titling. And they're somewhat unique and and the audience knows that it's not going to be, how to work a microphone. That will never be my title. But
Good.
Titling can be unique as well, I would think.
Well, you've had a lot of experience with books, right, Rob? Titling is the label, is the cover of the book. It's the label on the bottle of wine. My wife doesn't know anything about wine, but she'll buy a bottle for me once in a while based on the label. We've all done that. I've certainly done that. And I think it's incredibly important. We spend a lot of time thinking about the title and the byline and the art. I mean, I spend a lot of time obsessing about the show art because I think it's incredibly important. I think it's the sense of arrival,
The catch-22, Charlie, if we can tie books into this just for a second, is you can call your book, the tweezer effect, but you have to underneath it say how to get splinters out without hurting your fingers. Okay. In other words, we got it somewhere. I got to know what that means. And the problem I'm having being as creative with a podcast is I can call it, the tweezer effect, but my audience has no idea what I'm talking about. And and the title can't go, it is in the summary. I get that, but I worry about that I want to be unique. I want to be creative, but I don't want people to go, what the heck is he talking about?
Yeah, it's a danger. Yeah.
So you want to give them enough to draw them in, but not too much.
Right. I like them curious, but I don't want them to be discouraged. What were you going to say, John?
Yeah.
Well, there's the title of the podcast and there's the title of the episode.
Yeah.
And there are utilities that you can test your title. A company called CoSchedule has a headline tester. And you can write in, Rob gets arrested again, or you could write in Rob tap dances his way through Bethesda, and it'll rate it by emotional words in the title. And with blogging today, you usually have to have about 50 characters in the title and a keyword in there. And so if you're lost, you can use, I think it's CoSchedule or something, the name of the company, and I'll look for it right now. But if you want to work on your title, that's a great way to do it. That's how I do it. So
outstanding. Would you, two things, would you put it in, when you find it, put
Yeah.
it in the chat area for us?
I'll
And the
look right
second
now,
thing is, will you
please.
stop dragging my name through every example of yours? You know, I was smacking a guy like Rob the other day. I'm constantly
This is
picking
an
up
opportunity
shrapnel
to
from
pick.
you.
This is an opportunity to pick on you. I wouldn't miss this for the world.
Everything, you know, I was looking at
I
a mud
agree with
puddle,
John.
remind me of Rob the other
Let's
day. I
everybody
mean,
pick on Rob.
told you, I already got called an asshole before we even started. Please.
I'm piling on.
Yeah, I'm sweating over here.
You're having a good time. I don't know about you, Rob.
All right, let's go. Some other thoughts. So titling and you know, just one last thing, but picking up what you said, I think maybe I've told you all that I'm an auctioneer, a live auctioneer just for charities, but I get at some very unusual items. And one of the things that I've auctioned off a couple of times at a retreat for authors is titling. It's a professional titler. And
Yeah.
she bills out at $5,000 an hour. Now she
Holy
wouldn't
crap.
we were not looking for her to title your episode. We might be looking for her to title the name of the podcast or the name of your business. I mean, that's what, if you're wondering why would I pay 5,000, you get the title right as an entrepreneur. It's a big deal. But I will tell you that she gave a presentation once, and she goes to websites just like you're talking about, John. Words That Rhyme website. That's not what it's called, but other words that mean what you're saying, phrases that mean the phrase that you've got. You know, and when you start putting those sites together and then try and be, that's really the mechanism behind a lot of creativity that I noticed. She's one of the most creative people I ever met, and yet she's leaning on websites. She's not just looking back going, I think it should be. She's listening and then trying to get things that rhyme, another ways of saying it, but she's going to sites. And if you'd like, I can make that available. I'll put it on the Facebook fan page. Some of the sites that she has, excuse me, that, like you, John, it'll take me a little bit, good podcast voice. It'll take me a little bit to find it, but I can carve in, and for some of you, maybe that'll help with titling as well. Other thoughts?
Well, Rob, what is her name?
Her name is, I'll have it for you in a moment. Just give me a second.
Okay.
I'm teasing over here. I used to know it, but it seems to have escaped me. Someone else talk with a creative idea while I bang my head. I should know this woman's
I've got
name.
an oldie but a goodie. I was just thinking of an episode I did with my daughter, Rob. She's a voracious reader. And so when Harry Potter and the Cursed Child came out, we were there at midnight. She bought the book, read the book. We did a review the next day. The unique part that I'm referring to is the call out. So a lot of people do this. She had one part in the interview where she did a Voldemort laugh, and it was really good. So that was the first thing on the episode. We opened up with Isabel going, "Mwahahaha," and a quote about the book, and then went into the introduction and the show. So a lot of people do stuff like that. If you got a good one-liner, a good singer, just blast out of the gate with that and then go into your introduction. So that's not really anything new, but it just made me think about it.
Excellent. Keep going. I'm now tunneling through trying to find this woman's name. So
I put the URL in the chat.
Great. Thank you.
The headline analyzer, and it's just a start. There's a lot of different ones out there, but this is I think the guy named is Garrett Moon who ran this company. I think I've stumbled on him somehow or other, and he's got a book, by the way, Rob. So not too bad.
Excellent. Good. Let me grab that too. Just gonna do that on title. Okay. Format, titling, location. We can freewheel it from here and go to any topic we want, but is that it? We're out of gas on unique. I can't believe it. Any of you? I'm just making this up. Go ahead, Marilyn. I'll dovetail behind you. You go.
Okay. One thing I was just going to add is that you want to be able to have your audience answer the question, oh, this is what I go to, Rob's podcast for. So it's what do you want to be known for? And, it can't just be, well, he interviews entrepreneurs, because lots of podcasters interview entrepreneurs. I'm not saying that's all you say, but just as an example.
Right.
So you want a magnetic message about yourself as the host that is common regardless of who your guests are or whether you podcast just as, as just your own solo episodes. You want some common theme that really makes you stand out, that your listeners are going to say, oh, this is what he's known for, or this is what she does.
Right. Yeah. That's, yep. I
Alex.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, Marilyn, I actually, I like that. And I think, as the host, we can work on that too. I think it was Charlie who was kind of touching on this point, and that is adding some humor. And maybe we have to, before we interview somebody, think, I'm going to take a very serious topic. How do I interject some personality throughout all of this instead of just keeping it so dry? Because people will come back if you're unique that way.
Mm-hmm.
I got to jump in here. I interviewed a patent attorney last week, and talk about put you to sleep. I mean, if I heard that Rob interviewed a patent attorney, I wouldn't listen to that. But so here's my angle. I took a kind of a staid topic and I twisted around. And so the patent attorney worked with satellites in space. And so if Alex has a patent in Maryland, is it valid 200 miles above the Earth? Is it valid on Mars? What about a 3D printer? If a 3D printer is on Earth, you have to respect patents for. But what if it's printing on the space station? And so if you take a staid, boring topic like patent law and talk about, well, let's talk about it 200 miles from here. What happens to patent law in space? Is it all gone? Is it just over the country? If the satellites go to the United States, is that where the patent law applies? And so a topic like that can be worked. And I worked it. So this is another idea of being unique with a boring topic. You like book writers. Hey, Rob, we're book writing today, and come up with something fun.
No, I came up with an idea while you were talking there. First of all, I did find her name. That's why you saw me looking like this at the screen. Her name is Alexandra Watkins, and I put it in the chat area. And if you just Google her, I don't think you'll have a problem figuring her out. But one of the thoughts I had, and again, maybe this will bring us to a different idea. But I keep, for some of my seminars and stuff, I keep this little sound piece up here near me, and particularly when like for when I ask somebody to think about a question, sometimes I'll play it and I'll go, now take your time because it's an important question. I have to fill it, but I don't want you to jump in because this one's going to be critical. So take your time. All right, I need that answer. So it's a matter of it's a little longer than one, but and this thing has some a buzzer when you're wrong, and so to just play with maybe some sound effects. Am I Soupy Sales?
Oh, I love it.
I love it. Chad Hunter, I'm not sure. Do you know who Soupy Sales was? I didn't think so. All right.
Hey kids, go to your parents' wallets, take the money out, and mail it to Soupy Sales. That was Soupy Sales.
Yeah, Soupy Sales got himself into some trouble, but he was kind of almost like a shock jock, outrageous person, but back in like the 60s, 70s kind of thing. But anyway, all right.
So no one can steal this. I had this when I was a kid. I went on to eBay. I would like to reverse engineer this and make this the Podville Media giveaway. It's the talking pen that warps your voice. So I could record myself saying, "Hey Rob," or I go, "Hey Rob," or
Right.
"Hey Rob." And
Right.
I want that for a podcast gift, but I'm not smart enough to be able to reverse engineer a talking pen. But I bought one on eBay.
Yeah. I used to give out not to my guests, but in seminars, a lot of times I use I also have, it isn't a bunch of tricks in front of me, but it's pretty much, but I have a call bell. And I used to hit that when I did a seminar, when somebody really nailed something or a great idea, It was like,
yeah,
that's what, anyway, I used to give them out at the end of the workshop. It was a 5-day workshop, but everybody got their own call bell and they really liked it because they knew how to use it. And occasionally I will hit this bell just when I go, that's what I was looking for. That's the one. That's what we need to. So but again, leaning on sound effects. Any of you ever use? Yep.
You have the glass breaking or the symbol. The David Letterman.
Like on David Letterman. Yeah.
If I could tell, I'll make this 30 seconds. But when I was dating my wife, we were living together. This was, we were married 35 years. I had a cassette tape of sound effects, and one of them was lots of breaking glass and things. And I made a phone message saying, and now Ronnie's living here. Here she is right now. And you hear this smashing, crashing. And it was like, sorry, Ronnie, what have you done? We'll have to call you back. Anyway, I got chewed out by her dad. And that was the end of that sound effect. He did not like it.
Obviously, you were doing it right if you got chewed out by her dad. But Alex or someone was saying something about humor, and I am reminded, long before podcasting, I was a fan of public speaking in high school and college. My dad was was a great speaker, and I would always call him up. Again, I think it was you, Alex, before I had to say something in front of people, and I would try and get a good, this is the old days, politically correct joke, because there were an awful lot of non-politically correct jokes, still are obviously, but it's nice to open up with something soft that makes people laugh, self-deprecating humor, right? And I would always call Dad up and I say, what do you got? And we would talk 20 minutes before a thing, and he would give me whatever was new, whatever his friends had faxed him. So I like having a joke to start a podcast or anything. I think it helps. Yeah.
How about and I'll leave the sound effects thing, but I just realized I experimented with it 2 years ago when I came out of the gate hitting virtual presentations, and decided the only thing I was missing was laughter. I'm used to an audience laughing. So I actually have this app, and I had it on an iPad next to a Bose speaker on the other side of my microphone. And I would go to it when I said something I thought was funny. I would, here, let me turn that volume up a little bit. I would hit this thing. And it was pretty quick. My problem was I would miss the button sometimes. And if you listen to real laughter, you don't go, and why'd the guy cross the road? To scratch his ear. And so there was always a delay with me getting to the button. But I don't know, maybe a little bit of laughter on there. You got it too. Is it on your pen?
The laughing pen.
Yeah. Yep. I'm probably spiraling out of control on these sound effects, but I'm just trying to be unique, trying to find something. Yeah. Yeah.
Set that off in an elevator. And
Yep.
just look around.
Yep.
I've noticed
Thoughts or ideas?
I've noticed that a lot of podcasters will have the same question that they ask all their guests, either at the beginning or at the end. Like there's one that says, tell me something about yourself. I've searched all your social media sites that I would not see in your bio or your description. And give me something juicy, something that people would not know about you. And then other it'll just be like, what's your favorite movie or what's your favorite book?
Yeah.
But any thoughts about like what kind of question that you would ask either at the beginning or the end to all your guests that would kind of be your thing?
Well, I know Fred just asked me, what's the one thing you're going to say to take away? And I know he does that every episode. But, and I know I've mentioned this before, I'll try to be really quick, Rob. If you guys watch Hot Ones on YouTube, the one where Sean Evans interviews people and they eat hot wings, 10 hot wings, progressively hotter, he does simple research on the people. He looks at their Facebook page. He looks at their high school yearbook. He does simple research, and every episode, his interviews are, they say without fail, damn, how did you find that out? I can't believe I've never been asked that question. It's a really good show to watch. I mean, it's stupid, but there are people who've made clips of that show just showing what a great interview he is. He's doing the stuff that we all should do that I never did with my first interviews, which is basic research. Look at the website, look at the Facebook page, go back on the Twitter page and find something. One of his questions, Rob, is explain that gram. So he brings on people like Halle Berry or Will Smith, and he says, here's the weirdest damn photograph that you posted on your Instagram page. Can you explain that? And that's very clever. So I like looking at things that aren't podcasty to try and figure out how to cross apply it. And I like Sean Evans. I think he's a good interviewer. So sorry.
Oh, that's smart. And, look, you threw out an idea, but, off the side there, which is, why aren't we benchmarking? Why aren't we, maybe for our next meeting or whatever? I would love to hear what each one of you think are the top 2 or 3 podcasts that you just love, just think is outrageous. Because guess what? We'll probably answer the question of how to be unique. There's probably something going on there, and you just gave us one, which is research. Alex, it was interesting when you mentioned that you get hit by a lot of people, and you're not short on guests. I came out of the gate and I was looking to build a pile of podcasts to get going, but I'm the same way now. I'm trying to be a little bit more discerning, because I want to do what you just said, Charlie, which is have the time to research and not just keep pounding out podcast after podcast. I'm at 120 now. People have 1,000. I'm just saying I'm not at 3 anymore. So I feel like I can slow down, pick the guests a little bit more carefully, and do exactly what you said. How flattering would that be? I would love to hear that. No one has ever asked me, I'm impressed with your research or something.
Honestly, spend 5 minutes, look at that show or clips of it, and it's not anything that anybody in this call can't do. We're talking about the simple research we learned about in grade school, looking up if a person's written a book, looking up if he's written an article, looking up if he got an award, he or she, sorry, got an award, or where they went to school, for crying out loud. It's super simple, but it amazes me every time I watch that show that people don't do that. I didn't do it when I had my first interview. I didn't look the guy up at all. It was embarrassing. Yeah. Sorry.
Alex, roll.
It takes me to a different point, and let me ask this question to the group and get your take on this. I've always heard the line that, if the FBI calls you in and they ask you questions, they already know the answer. So, when it comes to asking your guests questions, should you already know the answer?
I don't think so.
I prefer not to, because I can't be authentic. I can't react to it. I mean, I'm trying, but
they might answer it in a way that you don't know. But I think, if we're talking about doing that amount of research, in a sense, is it hard not to know the answer if you're asking certain questions?
Right. I don't know.
Well, the research would let you know what you can ask that you don't know, because that shows you what you know. And then you realize, oh, so I wonder about this other thing.
Yeah.
So I imagine that Sean, when he's looking at this stuff, for example, the Instagram thing, he's looking at something not to embarrass the person, but to come up with an interesting story. And Marilyn's right. If you've done a little research, you realize, well, that was probably the one where he had a story. If you've looked at 100 or 1,000 damn pictures, the one with his buddy and the beer on his head or whatever it is, I think Marilyn's probably right. I wouldn't want to know all the answers, Alex, but I'd want to think I knew generally where it was going for sure. There's no question. I don't want to be completely have my legs swept out from under me and look like a complete idiot. But I don't know. I mean, sometimes that's good too. I look like an idiot.
Another idea that was mentioned just a little bit ago was always having a question that you ask every guest, and that helps your brand as the podcast host. And there was a podcast I used to listen to. I'm not sure why I don't anymore. I need to check back in. I think it was called Success Talks. And, they always interviewed entrepreneurs, but they always closed with, what is your definition of success? And so it both branded them as the podcasters, as well as gave the guest an opportunity to stand out very uniquely, because everyone has their own personal definition of success. So it was something that, as a listener, I always wanted to hear, like, oh, how does this person who has achieved so much, which made them, a good candidate as a guest, how do they define success?
I'd love to start with that question.
I looked forward to hearing.
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
Simon Sinek wrote this book, Why. I always start with why. And
yeah.
I have interviewed literally hundreds and hundreds of people and gone through hundreds of LinkedIn profiles. And you see the standard ones. Then you see something like Alex Shorb, bachelor's degree engineering and double minor in French. And I get on the show and I go, Alex, so you're an engineer and you're also minored in French? tell me more, or why? It's just you see incongruities that I see
Yeah.
military people like that. You know,
Yeah.
they have a dance major at William and Mary, and they join the Marines. You're a dance major. Oh, what's good? And so the incongruities or especially if you're raised in a different country, that how's that impact your educational experience in the United States? And so it's really
That's
the
also
why is
sticky
just kind
stuff,
of tough,
right,
Yeah.
John? That's the sticky stuff. I wrote at the end of mine, and if you read it, it'll say, "And I play mandolin in a jug band," just to because I do, and it seemed weird, and I like weird. So, but yeah, I'm always rewriting my profile stuff to updating it all the time.
Going back to the issue of, do we want to know answers and questions and things like that? I'm sure all of us have been guests on podcasts, and that's that I'm good at. I've done that a lot. But just to change that question around, I'll tell you, about 25% of the time, the podcast hosts want to send me the questions, and I always tell them, please don't. I don't want to see your questions, because I really want that, what we talked about when we started. I want it to feel like we're having a cup of coffee together. And I don't have a cup of coffee with people and know all the questions they're going to ask me. That's what makes it an enjoyable conversation. So that's a part of me that's leaking out on the other side of how much I want them to know and not know, so that we really can just find stuff together.
Yeah, Rob, just to dovetail on that, there's a famous photographer, I forget who it is, but at the end of any photo shoot he did, he asked the person to jump up in the air, and he would get a picture of them up in the air, and he's got like Nixon up in the air and all sorts of famous people. And
Nixon could get up in the air?
Yeah, well, back then, I guess.
Yes, but, Chad Hunter, Nixon was a president many years ago. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So anyway, the idea is sort of like it's a Columbo move for us old folks that know Columbo. He's the detective, and he asks them all these questions, and then he's about to walk out the door, and by the way, and I've seen
there's one more thing.
Yeah,
there's some famous interviewers that do the same tactic. It'll be kind of toward the end of the podcast, and they'll say some sort of concluding statement, but your camera's still rolling, the mic's still rolling hot, and it'll be some sort of concluding statement, and then they just sort of let their guard down, and then there's like some follow-up that it's much more natural, much more off the cuff at the end. Does anyone do that?
I don't.
There's something called an audiogram, and you've probably seen it where there's a little thing goes on the edge there. What I started doing is at the end of the interview, I'll turn to the guest and say, well, tell me, Chad, what's the most interesting thing you found out about living on the island of Puerto Rico? And then he'll say something, and many times that reveals a whole lot of topics I'm not sure of. And so I've been using those for audiograms of late, and this is a way to promote the podcast, a way to kind of differentiate, make it unique, huh?
Yeah.
John, what are audiograms?
Oh, you've probably seen them on LinkedIn or Twitter. It's like a picture of Rob, and then there's just like a little movement and Rob,
Waveform.
hey, I play baseball in Bethesda, and it's a lot of fun. It just is a way to combine audio with visuals, and it's you can go to a place called Headliner and get it. You go to a place called Wave, WAVVE, and do it. So, and I found it to be very effective, and I've measured it very, very carefully last year, 365 days every day, and I've got regression analysis on it, so I got an idea, and it works. So they're good.
Excellent. Kyle, I noticed you put the words Airgate in the chat area. What are you referring to there?
Forward to it.
It timed out with the Nixon joke.
Watergate. Watergate. Yeah.
Okay. He's jumping in the air.
Airgate. I see. Yeah.
I was looking in my desk, Kyle, because this is my dad's desk, and there's a Nixon Agnew button in here somewhere. I can't find it. So I don't share that a lot.
Yep. Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm walking away here. I'm immediately going to try and find a remote location. I want to try that out. I want to try some noise, see what that's all about. That was just some really interesting ideas today. Any other, final thoughts? We'll be kind of begin to wind down, but other ideas or thoughts you want to throw out on the table?
I have questions, and maybe they're not all fit for right here, but generally, I wanted to know how often y'all meet. This has been um, uh, interesting and exciting, and it's caused me to think about a lot of things, a lot of potential additions to the podcast. And given that I'm at one really, or one that I like,
Uh-huh.
there's nowhere to go but up. So if you all meet regularly, I'd like to tap back in and catch more. Or if anyone wants to talk and chat or keep in touch, I'm gonna put my email in here, and I'm open to any ideas at all.
Perfect. Well, you came to the right place. We meet once a month, the second Thursday of the month, as long as Rob's in town. And what else? You came to the right place because we have all different forms of podcasters here, Kyle. We got, grizzled guys, they've been doing it for hundreds and hundreds of years, like John. How do you like it, huh? How do you like it? And we got people that haven't started yet and are thinking about it. So I also would encourage you and all of you to make sure you've signed up. You get into that Facebook page. Kyle, when I reach out to you, I'll send you a link, because we have all our recordings from all the meetings we've had. So we've talked about equipment, which you might want to hear about, and and naming and just different things like that. So we've got some good stuff for you that you can listen to, so you can catch up on some of the meetings. But it's a very supportive group. We'll all help you any way we can. Good. All right. Any other thoughts? Last ideas?
When we started this group, Rob, a long time ago, we used to meet in person once in a while.
Yeah.
So
I know
I'd
you're
like to
pushing for that. I'm
I'd
ready.
like to suggest that in June or July, we consider meeting and having a glass of wine somewhere. Or
Perfect.
somewhere, so.
Okay. All those in favor of Charlie handling that and scheduling it,
Yeah.
raise your hand. Good. Everybody, Alex, where's your hand? Get it up there. Come on, let's go. There you go. All right. But Charlie, you and I we'll talk about that offline, and let's make that happen. Kyle, are you in the area? Where you at?
Yeah, geographically.
I am in good distinction. I'm in New York right now.
It's
So
gonna be a long way for
I'm pushing against you all meeting in person.
Yeah.
I hope y'all don't meet in person. You keep it online.
Oh, we'll keep it here. Don't worry. We'll stay virtual. But we'll make a recording of that one too for you. But that one won't teach you a whole lot.
We'll work on it.
All right,
you guys,
folks.
have a great day.
Yeah. Listen, great seeing you. Thanks for showing up. And we'll do it again. This is the end of the Jollis podcast. We'll do it again the best we can next time. Until then, stay safe.